Death by noise.
Through dark veil, space, time.
Yes, I like it.
This is Warp Chatter!
Sweet mother of the abyss!
There's a great deal of work to do.
Alright, welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the Warp Chatter podcast. This is the podcast dedicated to talking about the Horus Heresy Legion's digital card game, Horus Heresy lore, Warhammer 40,000, everything that encompasses. It encompasses boys and girls. I would like to have more girls in the audience, but whatever. We'll take what we can get. If you're Slanesh, you're both, so we'll take that.
Or neither. It's really hard to tell half the time.
Either or, neither, either. So that's right. It's a he, him, she, her world.
Neither, all of the above, maybe?
Yes.
Though recently all his art has been primarily female.
It's been weird. Pretty, yeah. It's it's very fleshy. I'll give it that. It's pink. I'm your host, Scuffy. This is a podcast by players for players of all genders, shapes, and sizes, and ages. And how can we be more inclusive? Slanesh is all inclusive, right? There you go. Of all crustaceans and of all habitats.
We're really stretching here, folks. We're really trying our hardest.
We're trying hard. The Eye of Terror Studios has actually kept me with our episode last week talking about the Death Guard. I must have picked up something, or I'm blaming it on Axel for transmitting diseases via the Astronomicon.
That too.
Yeah, so I've got a cold. So disclosure, I have a cold. That's why I'm sounding a little bit stuffy. I'm going to try to make do with it while I can. I may have to mute myself depending on how the nose runs. But
if Jeff dies mid episode, the Warp will remember him.
That's how I am. I just will be remembered, fondly or not, by the Warp. With us today, we've got a player. It's not just a player; it's a tournament organizer. Dole7 from the Discord.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. And we're going to be talking about the Thousand Sons. This is they're the next Legion in our Legion Faction Spotlight series. Finally getting around to that. We've had a couple of weeks this month without any patches, although I think next week we've obviously got the podcast. We're talking with Mr. Evergill. We're doing the Q&A. So you want to tune in and not miss that episode. And then I imagine the following week we'll probably have a balance patch to discuss, but we shall see. So, before we get started on the Thousand Sons, Doles, tell us about yourself.
Well, as you know, I'm a tournament organizer. I mainly play Thousand Sons, Salamanders, and Night Houses in Legions. Basically.
One of these things just doesn't belong here.
Well, Night Houses are fun in my opinion, but yeah, that's just my opinion.
I really like mechs, but they came out too powerful for me to play them without just feeling bad.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I only played them at the beginning for 10 days, but yes.
Yeah, perhaps.
So is that just in the game? Do you play any factions tabletop?
No, I don't play table. I'm too poor for tabletop, unfortunately.
Okay. That's rich blood for those models.
Yeah, especially nowadays. That is one of the pros for the game.
Yeah.
With it being free to play, I mean, it's not tabletop game, but you can collect a faction, and you can represent your favorite or least favorite Legion, depending on how you want to do it.
At least that's a beauty of tabletop sim. I don't have to buy the model to play it. Just gotta find a rule book. Legally, of course.
Oh, of course. It's all legal. I think the last couple of years has seen a spike in all sorts of ways to play the game. I read an article about a month ago on GW that, I mean, obviously this year they're kind of hurting. Where they want, this is 2022, but as the end of 2021, they were not looking as good as they were in 2020. because, obviously some places with COVID restrictions have gone back. Some people are not diving back into the hobby, and there's some speculation that's also because people got into the hobby and then they're like, oh, this is more expensive to keep up than it used to be. I'm going to pass.
Mm-hmm. Which, frankly, it is.
It is really, it's ridiculous. Like, I bought the Indominus box in 2020, and I really enjoyed it. That was a great buy. Included a lot of stuff, had some great stuff. My fingers hurt from putting the Necrons together, but I really liked it. And then they've had some cool boxes and kits that have come out since then, but every time I look at them, the price point is just insane, and I can't even justify it.
Which is the worst part.
That is it. Like, if you want to buy these models, you want to sell the models, make them. I'm sure they cost something to make, but you can't tell me that when you've got a factory press filling molds with plastic that, it costs $55 to put together 5 models. That just doesn't make sense.
That's what upsets me the most about Forge World, because resin is cheaper than plastic.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that the price is nearly double in some circumstances, I understand they're more detailed, but really, though, they should not cost that much.
No, I think they just do, because if Games Workshop is raising their stuff, they got to raise their stuff too. Like Forge World has always been more expensive. Like, it would feel backwards if they weren't. So I feel like that's why they just do it. It's like, well, I guess they've raised the prices over there. We got to keep our prices above theirs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Even though it's made out of a cheaper material.
Right.
Weird.
And it's depending on the kit and the size of it, sometimes it's more of a pain. Like, if you have to deal with flash, oh my god, that is a pain and a half.
Like, resin, really pretty. God, do I hate it.
Yeah. You've got to clean it right. Do you remember Citadel Finecast?
Oh, fuck. That was a bit ago.
That was the worst decision ever. I don't know. I mean, like, in the history of me remembering the game, that was my my moment where it's like, what is Games Workshop doing? Why? Like, and the stuff that they would sell, like, you would see it in the blisters, and there would be like bubbles in the models that like ruined the sculpt, or because it was in Vegas, so we would have heat, and sometimes they would get boxes shipped. And through the course of shipping and travel, they were sitting in 100-degree weather, and by the time the stores got them, the resin had all warped, and like it was ridiculous. Like, the stores had to ask for like resends, and it was just a bad time. Citadel Finecast, not a good idea. But we're not talking...
No idea what's happening.
Yeah, we're not talking about Citadel Finecast today. We're supposed to be talking about Thousand Suns. I'll make a transition, because Citadel Finecast, if you sand it...
It hurt us.
It turns to dust, right?
All
is dust. There we go. See, there's the transition. There's the segue.
We grasped for straws, boys, but we found one.
Well, Games Workshop did nothing wrong. Dulls, are you of the mind that Magnus did nothing wrong?
Well, as a Thousand Suns player, I probably should say yes, but actually, no. I don't think so.
Magnus is you heard it here
most other
first.
Primarchs.
Hot take, Magnus is an absolute idiot. But he's lovable, so it's fine.
Yes. His idiocy was justified, at least.
In some cases.
Yes.
Papa said no more demons. Well, fuck him. I'm still talk to demons.
Yeah, to some point, I think, I think that's the crux of any good Horus Heresy story / character transformation is the tragicness of it. And, the hubris of Magnus, but also his intentions, like, that's the tragedy. Like, he really was trying to do the right thing. He just ignored common sense and like everything else that told him like that's not the way to do it. That's just going to compound things and make it worse.
Agreed.
Yeah. But that's the fun of the Horus Heresy. A bunch of characters doing stupid actions when there was this intelligent one.
That's and you know how it ends up for them all. Like you know like how this is going to pay off because of this one decision.
That's one of my favorite book moments in one of the Horus Heresy books, where a character ends it going, "I'm going to assassinate Lorgar," which doesn't work out. Which the book, we haven't even gotten to the book where he tries yet. You can just use common sense to go, that doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's the
Oh,
X.
it is.
That's that X word bearer, right?
yeah. Well, he is a word bearer.
He's
right
a
now.
word bearer, but he's not. He's not of the.
Oil.
Yeah, exactly.
Of the Kloss. Which, by the way, I hope we get him over Corferon out of spite. There's a chance, because Corferon wasn't just introduced, so it means we're going to fight for him. That's what I'm banking on.
Of course, I'm thinking like the Ophian and Corferon questions from the last Q&A are kind of foreshadowing what's about to happen to Corferon, like what's happening to Ophian now.
That's entirely
Yeah.
possible. Yeah, we might have the choice
Corferon
like
done dirty.
Amit or Corferon, and people go for Amit. Then sorry.
And then we get what we actually wanted, Narek.
Do you think that they'll do that with every single faction that we haven't seen? I mean, granted that this might be a good question to ask next week, but I don't think like they could do that for every faction that doesn't yet have a fifth warlord, because some of them don't have a fifth warlord to choose from, really, or like two fifth warlord options. Like Alpha Legion so far just have Sheed, and he's new.
Alpha. And yeah, before Sheed was added, they had none.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, they can just add more, I think.
They could make more, which is likely what's going to happen, but it's just that originally there was no option even from the get-go.
Yeah.
Alpha Legion, we could have got a tank. Which, frankly, I wanted the tank. I'm not going to lie to you.
The duck tank.
Yeah.
Well, with the Thousand Sons, they had Hather Mott, who we didn't see.
Yes, I honestly, I think he would have been a better warlord.
Between the
That's
two,
actually
like you don't
good,
like Sanic, or just like you think in terms of working with the Legion better?
I think it would have worked with the Legion better, especially the mission, because what Hathermat could have done is he could have kept the Psycho troops alive, so it would be easier to trigger the mission.
I do like Mr. Kapesh Man, though. He's fun.
Yeah, the original.
He almost
form was
came out
fucking-
in a very
Yes.
problematic. I'm pretty sure you're one of the users who wrote a long-winded email to Everguild about that.
Yeah. Fortunately, they heeded our words.
They saw the writing in the sand.
I think
Those at home.
he came out pretty well, like without having to worry about orders from Terra
Or
Yeah.
Corn's favor.
or anything that
Yeah,
allows
that's
for Berserk or attack twice.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is that basically, since Kopeshman uses psychic energy, you could play both Corn's favor and orders from Terra in the same turn easily.
Mm-hmm.
That was the main problem.
Especially before the change to drilling sites.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm happy with how that change turned out as well. That was a really good change. Moves Everguild.
Yeah, that was only 3 weeks ago, and we're
Yeah.
still feeling the impact of the game. So,
Good impact.
I think so. I think it's shook up things to a degree. I think people are adapting, as that's just the way the game's going to go. That's the way meta's going to go. And you add new cards, you add new factions, you make more patches, people will continue to adapt. That's just the nature of meta.
Mm-hmm. For better or worse, things have changed.
Well, and for the Thousand Sons, I would say they've changed for the better. I think for the longest time, aside from like maybe week 1 when they first launched, when they were just like ridiculously overpowered. I think every guild completely underestimated how powerful a second resource unlimited would be, as well as combinations with like Telos Changers and Psychic Lash and troops that could just stick around long enough to give you free Psyker energy. Then they kind of shifted to, well, there's like 4 cards you play from this faction, and everything else is neutrals.
It's funny to me how they thought a secondary resource pool would work after Thousand Sun incident and did it with Knights.
Yeah.
It was already proven once to not work, but they tried again, which I gotta commend.
I will say this. The attempt to do it with night houses, while it's a second resource pool, was done. I understand their approach was to basically limit it to just being used by the warlord, by the weapons. Like, there's no other unit in the night houses that uses plasma. It's just the weapons. So there's a bunch that generate it, but just the weapons use it. The problem is, especially on release, and even still to now, is how you can rotate weapons, or how weapons can stay alive, or especially when you were just like, oh, I have no plasma, let me play 3 cards, draw 3 cards, play 3 cards more, and I've got 20 plasma.
Yeah. It didn't turn out the way we wanted.
Well, plasma is not that free anymore.
No.
Anymore.
No, not
Key part.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, anymore.
Because, oh man, plasma used to be very free.
Relatively
of
free,
course.
And it didn't cost him anything to play cards.
Yeah.
Like, the thing is, like, it's not free now because they like, back when Knights were still good, still OP, I would say, they are still good. They could basically just cycle and generate plasma at the same time, but now that they cannot do that, you have to choose different cards for different purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Which make it harder.
Yeah, it gives them. I mean, they still have some power cards that aren't necessarily plasma related. House Maccabeus is still a strong finisher that doesn't require plasma at all.
Yeah. But does work in a melee knight, which is nice.
Yeah. But
a rare breed.
Well,
it's still driven by Warlord, and the fact that you can stun the knight and now stun their weapons, and their ability to cycle and tutor, and especially now with the drilling site and Lactitio, I think they kind of have. I mean, they still have stuff going for them, but you can't say that it's broken. There's a lot of other stuff that meets them head on.
Mm-hmm.
yes, agreed.
And they're not even the outliers anymore, which is nice.
Yeah.
For a long while, if it wasn't Desperate Defense complained about, it was Knights. Both were quite justified, though.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can't blame anyone in that regard.
And nobody is complaining about Thousand Suns anymore. Not that that's a bad thing. I mean, for the longest time, it was just like, well, I'll play Def Sats, I'll play Astral Warfare, you don't have a board.
Someone's bound to be complaining, but I really like where they are right now.
I do too.
Agreed. Me too, yeah.
It's good. They're now more troop-focused, which the old joke was, oh, you're playing Thousand Suns. This is a neutral card pool. So to see them actually playable is very enjoyable. So, gotta give them credits.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't like to see them become a troop faction. I don't know why.
No, I think the way they became a troop faction works because the troops, and I don't use all of them, it depends on what you're building. Like, I think there's a couple troops that work much better in Phosis Takar, and then there's some troops that work in everything, as always, and then there's some that are really nice and supportive for other builds that maybe, lack some tools, whether it's tactic or whether it's a troop. Magnus having those little 1/3 guys to draw stuff early on, why not? They're target, they draw fire. Or if you got Phosis Takar and you've got those guys who make everybody +1/+1. Okay. Like, why wouldn't you? You can protect those pretty nicely.
Yeah. It's a niche build, but it's a build that now exists, which is nice.
Yeah, before it was like Phosis Takar was like, mortar carriers, the Skitarii guys, maybe a Devourer of Worlds to wrap things up.
Really, the deck just looked like Armin, but you're not banking on card stealing. It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the Thousand Suns duels, are you more like, do you favor them outside the game too, as far as lore is a preference, or?
Well, like, I yes, they have some characters. Like, I really like Keon the Black as a character. But yeah, I like them in the lore too. I mean, it's kind of their basically their whole lore is kind of tragic, and they are not like definitely a bad guy. They are not like evil as Lorgar, for example,
Right.
and the word bearers.
Listen, the word bearers
Yes.
can't all be called evil, okay? Well, 99.9% of them can be called evil, but we have like 2 loyalists who serve the Imperium.
Yeah, of course, there are outliers. I mean, yeah, there are
Listen, one of
Thousand
us-
Sons too.
One of
But they
them
just-
controls the entire religion in the Imperium in 40k. Neat lore fact for you.
Yeah, I know the Dreadnought.
Yeah, he's a
I
good boy.
forgot its name. Yes.
Anchorite.
Yeah, that's the name.
I know my word bearer lore for obvious reasons.
Well, I haven't immersed myself at the lore. I don't know specifics. A lot of specifics. So yeah,
Yeah.
like I've
We
read
can do-
bits from here and there. So yeah,
And is
Don't
that
ask me.
more for like just translations available, or just what you can find online?
no. I mean, I'm just like I didn't have time since I found the 40k and the Horusers. I didn't have much time to read and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Well, there's a lot
completely fair.
out there. I mean, and some
yeah.
of
Yeah, of
it
course I
stands, and some of it gets rewritten or canceled. So
Some of it's just garbage.
yeah, you just find what's relevant to what you want to do. That's one of the cool things I think about the hobby, at least, was always like, make up your own stuff about these guys. Like that was the whole, like you didn't have to, like, you could play Ultramarines, sure, but your Ultramarines could be a different company. Maybe they've gone on certain missions, or maybe they were formed before Cato Sicarius became the captain of whatever company. I mean, like you could do what you wanted to do, and just that was it. You didn't have to give a whole lot of explanation. Whereas some games, you're like, oh, you're playing this character, like that's, he has this particular story. Like there's no deviation in this game. And in 40k, you're like, oh yeah, this is my Imperial Guard regiment. They're from this world, and this is, the story. And it doesn't matter because, I mean, half the time, by the end of the game, you've got like 4 models left anyways.
That's why you play by the rule of, it's only a flesh wound. That guy survived this conflict.
Yes.
Unless it's a Space Marine, then you just say his genes he was collected.
I used
See, there's
to,
workarounds.
when I was playing for a while, I used to keep a running register of my entire army. And like I would have like I'd have like 1,000 names. I'd only usually use about like 50 or 60 of them. And then like after every battle, I would roll to see who died and who was like, of the ones who were like removed from the table, like who died and who didn't. And then like who had to be promoted and replaced. And, like the chaplain was wounded in combat, but he stayed so that I give him bionics in the next game I played. It was completely just for me. Like, it's not something that, like, my friends are like, what are you doing? I'm like, this matters to me.
It's a commitment. I can't blame you.
No, but now I just don't have the time for that.
Yeah, that's fair.
So with the 1,000 Suns, as far as before, I mean, I don't even know if we need to like exclude the new cards. We can just include the new cards in the discussion. As far as warlords go, who would you say is your favorite warlord, and why?
By far my favorite is Magnus because of basically now the Raven Guard counter and the high HP makes him really good. But yeah, I previously, when it was basically the Ariman or Magnus debate between Thousand Suns players, I always sided in Magnus because that's more of my play style.
Mhm.
I don't like Ariman that much. I mean, in game.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not a big fan of playing Ironman either. It just seems like I precog. That is my gimmick, and that is all.
Yes.
Plus, Primarchs are just fun to play because they have a lot of HP, so there's some room for error.
I mean, not only that, but you can take the games a bit slower with Magnus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you have to because you start with one less card. Two less cards than Ariman.
Which is pretty good.
Yes.
I like playing as Magnus as well, especially if you can actually activate his Reckoning, which has gotten easier as time has gone on, but it's quite fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite common now when I faced the Raven Guard.
Oh,
If I
well,
can
Raven
survive.
might give you.
Well,
the
yeah,
reckoning.
especially if they're going to ping
Yes.
you. I mean, they know what they're getting involved in when they do it.
They brought this upon themselves. They deserve whatever they get next.
Agreed.
Who would you say is the least that you play?
Forces by far.
Yeah.
Even yeah.
Really, I was just gonna say Phosphorus, because fuck if I've actually played him. I haven't even touched him.
I played
Out of right.
I played all of them. I would probably agree though. I play Phosis the least just because I like to do a little bit more with my Warlord, and the changes aren't bad. Like the changes to the Thousand Suns with the Warlords losing Psyker 2, I think that's a solid change. If you get City of Light, you might as well. I mean, it basically counters that. City of Light first turn, you're good to go. But I like playing Amon, and I like playing. I've been playing Sanic a lot since I got him because he was the one I was really looking for to get out of the Warlords that dropped that wave 2. And he's got his problems. You could still stun him. You could still throw some frontline in the way. He's still susceptible to the problems that plague a lot of Warlords that want to land the lethal blow. Whereas Amon can he doesn't quite have the same strength that Kyrene has. Like Kyrene's weakness is always, like your opponent's deck pool. Like Amon has it done a little differently because he puts your opponent on notice to play cards when maybe they wouldn't want to, just so you don't have the chance to copy. But at the same time, they might hold on and make their hand bigger to water down the possibility of you getting something good. And it's not an ability that you want to use late game if you're looking to do, some offense. So, but I just like playing those because there's a different play style. I feel like Magnus and Airmon are pretty, Magnus has got some options. He's got late game, he's got the Reckoning, he's got the high health. It definitely feels like the Primarch of the Thousand Suns. Airmon just gives precog. Precog in Jubak is fun, or against a flanking army. That's great, but aside from his special card and getting like a really nice low roll, he doesn't have a whole lot other than what he's protecting. So if you don't have good troops, or if your opponent's removing those things, then it doesn't do much.
It was a lot better back before they made them less neutral dependent.
Yes.
But now, that got to fix now. Basically, every Thousand Suns Warlord is like that. Like if you lose your troops, you are basically dead.
Yeah.
Yep. Just, making them a troop faction was good in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah.
I like them more now than they were before.
And I think they've got solid troops at most, like, curve plays. Like, they've got some good 3-drops. They've got a couple good 2-drops. I'd say 1, really, but...
one okay.
Yeah.
2-drop.
Well, for turn 1, and that's it. Like, I wouldn't want it late game at all. Like, it's not going to do anything. I don't play any of their troops above 6. Occasionally, I'll throw in Uthazar, but with the changes lately, and just with the decks I've got, I've taken him out. So typically, like, I cap at the 6 energy. But their Dreadnought is pretty nice if he sticks around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean...
There's multiple Dreadnoughts, but they're all fun.
Yeah, well, since there is no way to really protect vehicles, it's not worth playing.
Just because something's not worth playing doesn't mean it's not fun.
Well, when it hits the table, if your opponent has wasted their removals on other things, I think still, if you're playing the Thousand Suns, there's probably a couple cards that you're going to hold removals for. Penthu Dast, Izikr Or, maybe.
There's a card.
Yeah, maybe the Airman's Cabal. I mean, if you don't have another answer for those, those are the ones that you want to get rid of.
Yes.
Oh, definitely.
Armin's Cabal is definitely pretty much the strongest.
Yeah.
The most important Thousand Suns card at the moment.
I'm happy it went from one of the most, in my opinion, useless, one of at least, to very, very good.
I mean, it was basically a poor man's Balak with his art.
It was really bad. Yeah, it was. I mean, by comparison, when you say poor man's Uthazar, I mean it was like moderately so. And even though it was an epic, it felt like it was like, this is okay.
Oh,
I mean, don't make me use this card.
Drafting it would have hurt.
Yeah. Whereas now,
Yes.
I mean, 6/6 precog, that by itself, precog on the rally is good. But then you have the option: do I hit you with 6, or do I want to get a little bit extra psycho energy and do something?
No, but like it has one of the highest psycho stats, basic psycho
Yes.
stats in the game.
Was it 3, right?
Besides the good stats.
Yeah.
It's 3. Like they're like only the 9 energy dreadnought has 3 psycho besides it, I think.
Yep.
Which is pretty good to say the least.
Yes.
Well, and
Especially like,
go ahead.
if it stays alive for 2 turns, you basically have completed the Thousand Suns mission.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because you've got it making it, and then you could use its ability to make more, and then follow that the next turn.
Yes.
Which we mentioned that now, I may as well get this out of the way. I'm very happy they gave them a playable mission. Like, because Rally affects it, it is actually easy to get off.
Yeah.
It's refreshing after looking at some reckonings. Not reckoning, but missions.
Yeah, some missions
I
are
agree.
definitely nowhere
Yeah,
near playable.
I would
Most
like
of
to
them,
use
at
the term
least.
rigged.
I would say above 50%.
Yeah, of course, like above 70%, even 75.
Easily. And then the worst part is the ones that are the least playable are the most interesting. Not exactly good, but interesting. Like the EC one, for example. Every time your troop takes damage, gain a Mark of Chaos. That's really neat. Simply for the fact they added a new tactic that inflicts damage 3 times. In, like, 1 damage 3 times. So you can give yourself 3 Marks of Chaos and swing with it. That's cool. You'll never see that used. Ever. But the idea is cool. Shame.
I mean, I guess.
Listen, I just want interesting, fun things. Don't ruin my
Yeah,
parade.
I guess. Okay, I see your point.
That's fine.
Interesting is at all levels. You're going to have those ones that are just like powerhouse missions win the game. People want to run them. Then you've got those ones where it's just getting the mission is the challenge, and that in itself can feel like a win for some folks. You know, some people aren't going to waste their time with it because it's not what they're into, and others are. It just depends. I think like the Blood Angels mission is one that looked good on reveal, but then like immediately it's like, wait a minute, let's think about this. This isn't that great. Like,
Wait a minute, how do I even trigger this?
if you look at the reward, you're like, okay, that's all right, but you still are. It's still Requiem based, which means you need a unit to die, and then it's only going to work if you've got a unit with that has Requiem on the board. So that's a second trigger there.
A troop that has Requiem. It's
No,
important because if it was unit,
No, the troop is the trigger, but once you achieve it, it's
Yeah,
in the
sorry.
unit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the reward
yeah.
is unit. Yeah.
Yeah,
My
so it's
bad,
even
my
harder
bad.
to actually
Misunderstood.
trigger the mission. Yeah.
well, I personally think that if until they release like Amit, because it trigger is really strong on Amit, but for example on Maros it's not that strong, and they could really make it so that Maros' Requiem trigger would trigger the quest itself.
Yes, I agree. If it encountered your warlord, it would make both, whether we have Amit or not, Amit and Maros at least attractive to play. I did it with Maros, and I decked out, and my opponent decked out, and I just won because I kept having, token generation stuff and would double up my health. And I forget what enemy I was playing, but I was like, all right, I did it. I wouldn't want to do it again.
Oh, that's bad. The worst part is I could see some fun with Reckoning Sanguinius. theoretically, if you had the I wanted to say Moon Silver Blade because that's his tabletop blade.
The Encarmine Blade?
Yeah, the Encarmine Blade. If you have that and you're in Reckoning form and you got the mission, mind you, that's a lot of ands you got to bank on.
Mm-hmm.
That's some fun right there.
That should be the game at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You probably won 5 turns before, but if you do that, you're guaranteed to win.
I like what the Thousand Suns mission does for the faction because it rewards you for playing and generating psychic energy, which you're gonna do, and you can do it a couple different ways with troops, with by keeping troops alive, by rally effects, whatever the case is gonna be. But then you get something useful of it because you've made all that psychic energy. So getting resolution psychic tactics. I mean, granted, some of them are better than others, and maybe that's something we should talk about next. When it comes to the psych or tactics, what would you say are your top and your least favorite?
I gotta actually pull up the list here because I've not played them in a few, and I can't remember.
I mean, Astral Warfare is really good, but Psychic Clash is the really memey and fun to play.
Psychic Clash is fun.
Yes, but I think arguably the shittiest one is Scrying because it's completely useless.
What does Scrying even do again? Does it look at your opponent's hand?
Yes, reveal 3 cards in your opponent's hand, choose one, and increase its cost by 3.
It used to be where you would just copy a tactic in the opponent's hand.
It was a random.
Yeah,
it was a random card revealed, and only if it was a tactic would it be
right.
copied. Yeah.
So I mean, the card is better than it was, but it's still trash.
Yes. Also, I forgot it throws a card for you as well.
Oh.
If I didn't add it, but it's one draw for 2 psychic energy, which is not good value.
No, the increase would be nice, but at the same time, it just isn't enough. All right, let's pull up the list here. Yeah, I got to give it to Scrying then.
As your least favorite?
Is my least favorite because the rest of them, because I pulled up the list here, I actually like most of them. Like Reflection, draw 2 cards is their 3-cost one.
That's always good to have a one of. Yeah.
Quick Blood's fun if you got a good troop that you want to stick. Call of the I'm not even going to try to say that one. Tutelary, there we go. It's a fun word. Gives it Psyker 2. If it sticks, it's going to pay back the card you just used, energy-wise.
Yes, but it helps it live, but it usually becomes an even bigger target.
Yeah.
So,
I would say
really
that. Yeah, it's not great, but it's also not that bad.
It's more handy in the drafting when your opponent's removal options are limited in some draft modes because the odds of it sticking are much higher.
Oh yeah, if it was given to any troop, it would be very good because you can give Psyker 2 to non-Psyker things.
That would be fun to see.
Yes.
Like I want to turn Mount Pharos into a Psyker. That mountain has powers. Well, to be fair, it does.
Well, yes. I mean, I think that would be a bit too strong in some cases, and
we would have to give it something like Infantry or Astartes, so we can at least use it on something like Merit's Mercenaries to really buff them up.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would love to see Kaizen turn 1 Kaizen with Psyker 2, and it being a 2/3.
Maybe a 2/3 Psyker 2. You're like,
you gotta pray that you draw Seek and Destroy your turn.
I mean, technically, Kaizen was a Psyker, so that kind of...
Yeah, it's an Astropath, yeah.
Yeah, it would make sense. My favorite, I personally like Quick Blood as my favorite. Witchfire is useful, and Astral Warfare was always you want to have at least one of those in there, but I like the +2/+2, and especially with some precog units in some matchups, or if they survive and they stick around, that's when I throw the +2/+2 on them, and then they become even stronger. Or old memes I used to run with, it was Belikuthazar and Goldstone Hunters, and then just infinite Goldstone power. But yeah, that's personally, that's my favorite. I think in terms of power, I think Astral Warfare is a better clutch card You know, your opponent is always going to dread when you hit that 8 energy. Like, do they have it? Are my troops going to be around next turn or not? Least favorite though is definitely Scry has always been my least favorite. It's just junk. It feels like a waste. I would rather have Warp Rift. I think Warp Rift is a fantastic upgrade to what it used to be. I think it got a lot better with how it works, especially bouncing Uthazar. And I know people don't like bouncing Uthazar, and I'm not talking about bouncing him with Atham, but if you're bouncing him just with Thousand Suns cards, it feels very Thousand Sunsy. And if you're doing it within the faction card pool, then I feel like that's the whole point of the faction. It's just like if Blood Angels are dropping, the Descent of Angels, a host of angels, but they played 2 of the Hermias beforehand. That's the point. That's their Blood Angels. They've improved.
That's
their
a lot of
pods.
commitment he made.
Yeah, they've committed to it, and that's their style. And at the same time, if you're bouncing, Izzakir Ore, and you're surviving, and you're making that play, you built your deck that way. For the most part, you might randomly generate that Warp Portal, but that's the tricks. That's the trickery of the Thousand Suns.
Sorcery, one could say.
Indeed. Another thing with Warp. We discovered this, Axel discovered this, I think.
I discovered this the minute I looked at that card being added. I was like, oh no. Oh
yes,
no.
So basically there was, since Warp Retreat, not Warp Retreat, Warp Gate costs 2 psychic energy, and there is a troop that costs 2 normal, and it decreases the cost of the return troop by 2, and there is a troop that costs 2 energy and increases psychic energy by 2. So basically you can create a loop, and since there is a Dreadnought that deals 1 damage every time you return, every time you play a psychic power, you can just infinitely loop that, and theoretically play that forever.
Yeah.
But since
the servers.
Yes, the servers.
Well,
servers
what you could also use that with is a turn 1 mission completion.
You could, but the issue is you need something to give that power reflection, which is why this is preferred as a 1-turn kill. Yeah, so you would use the legendary. I think he's 7 energy.
With his arms. Yep.
Yeah, to give it reflection, and then if he sticks a turn, you then play a siren, and you win.
Yes.
I figured. Now, my original plan was, I just said the word original twice. Kargori, the one that gains 1/1, but then they just harder move it. See, Doles, he was like, there's one that pings, right? Totally forgot about the Siren Dreadnought.
Oh, Siren Dreadnought was so. I felt like he got punished because of their association with Teloth's Changers, and it was a shame because I think he worked out really well. And if they just would have changed Psychic Lash and Teloth's Changers the way they did, they could have left the Dreadnought just fine. Because I don't think he got changed at all when they did any of the Thousand Suns patches. They left him as he was.
What was his old form? I joined in during Callus.
It was. I think it had Psyker 2.
Yeah, he had Psyker 2, and I think he pinged for 2.
Instead of just 1, it did 1 to 2. And I think at one point he was changed to pinging only troops, I think. I'm not sure. But it only pinged for 1 damage, which is not good.
No. Even in our machine gun, it took way too long to kill.
Yes.
Which is a shame, but it was a good meme while it lasted. I mean, it still is available, but when it first was found out, it broke the game to play. It actually just desynced the match every time.
Yes. Which is obviously not a good thing.
Which is always perfect, in my opinion. Bound to happen.
Well, these things happen normally now. It's become the part of our lives.
Desync errors.
Yeah.
It's a bit annoying, but it happens.
I think you can't go a week without having some sort of desync error show up. Or found, or not resolved, and then they fix one, and then there's another one. And I know part of that is, we're adding new cards, and we're making patches and everything, but
I'm aware they're trying their best, but it hurts.
Yeah.
I am kinda suspicious of them, of these newer things being because of the new card system, like the hand animations, because they started to appear after that was introduced.
With the the shield and stealth.
No, just a bit before that, there were some new hand animations.
Oh yeah.
Which and card animations when you just drag it around in the on the board.
Well, if they just got rid of that whole option to play without the animations, I wonder if that would change anything. Because you've got some players who do, and some players who don't.
Yes, and that I know. I have seen that. I mean, not the difference. I mean, yes, never mind. The difference of that option can cause disconnects in the game.
Yeah.
In some ways.
I wouldn't be surprised if that helps. Then again, there are so many different versions of the desync bug that do so many different ways. We could really pull hairs for days.
Right, exactly.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Yep.
At this point, I don't even think it's worth it.
Well, speaking of, is it worth it? What would you say is your least likely card, Thousand Suns card, to include in your deck? But troop or tactic?
Any of them?
Yeah.
Oh, they're fucking 10 energy Land Raider.
Well, okay. Right.
Also Scry.
Yes. Okay. I'd rather have Scry over what is it called? Karaka? Something like that?
Karak, yeah, I think it's Karak.
Yeah, it's a 10-10 for 10. So, we're not saving any energy here. But if you have no troops, the game's frontline.
Hey.
That's not a hey.
No, I was going to say,
especially
that
Thousand
sounds...
Suns are a troop deck now.
Yeah.
And having a condition of not having troops is not that great.
No.
And that's why I would say that Ankto is also a card that most likely I wouldn't include now. Because I want troops and it for energy for 4 damage is not that great now. If it does nothing else.
On top of that, the Land Raider, you're oh, that would be really useful for, Ahriman, who's really weak. But if you put precog on it, it defeats the whole purpose of the front line. I don't know. I'm not a fan of the 10-10 vehicles in general. I think there might be 2 ones that I don't want to see hit the board, and those usually have Survivor or Shield on them.
Yeah.
Well, even those are considered to be bad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're giving up a huge turn. You have to, force your opponent to exhaust some resources before you're willing to commit to playing that card, or you're taking a big chance.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, it's a shame that so many Land Raiders in factions are just useless. Either they're dirt cheap and you can play them from the get-go, and if they are, they're actually a Rhino, or they just cost so much they're just not worth it. For example, they got the change to Iron Warrior's Land Raider. Now you're never going to see its siege ability go off.
The 7/7,
yeah,
I forget,
Land Raider 2-3-2.
Right.
Or /2, I guess. And yeah, it does nothing.
Active abilities are always shittier than passive ones.
Yeah, especially if they're siege.
Yeah.
It's a shame to see them brought out back by that.
Well, they got some other things, right? Not really. I mean,
not really. I can't think of a lot of good Land Raiders. I can think of plenty of good Rhinos.
Yeah,
I mean, there are the heavy tanks Actis Astra. I mean,
see, but that's not a Land Raider, and that's what breaks my heart.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a tiny many Land Raiders.
Yeah, even one of the coolest, the Grav tank. I want to call it Calidius because its name is similar. Calidius, something like that. One of the last
times the Custodes, yeah.
I've never seen that played legitimately.
I mean, back when Custodes were released, it was really common to see that, but I was on lower ranks, so maybe it was that.
Maybe. Whenever the next wave hits and those Custodes get new cards, they'll be given the Night Lords and White Scars treatment, and they'll do a complete rework of the Sentinel mechanic. And
That would be great. That is very much needed.
Yeah. I think that'd be cool.
That I hope so, because Sentinel right now is just shooting yourself in the foot for nothing.
Right. I mean, the game has power crept way beyond what the Custodes were when they hit. Rally effects are something that the Custodes simply don't have. And that's it. Like, it's like, what's the point? Aside from like a one-turn punch. I don't know. I mean, I think part of it would be changing the style of the Custodes faction, and that's fine.
They obviously don't work the way the devs thought they would.
No. I think if Sentinel was something like, if it was a boost as opposed to a withdraw, like if you don't have any other troops when you play this troop, this gains something, or something happens. Kind of like a perfection or a courage, but completely relying on your troops and not necessarily energy play.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah,
that could be neat.
It could be.
I hope they get some loving, because goddamn do they need it.
Yeah.
Ever since Constantine Valdor, the man named after a faction, stopped playing them, they suddenly disappeared from the meta report suspiciously.
You know what? It's almost as if there was a plan there.
It's almost like there's correlation. Probably going to lead to nothing, but what a man can dream.
The man has tried to follow his heart, and his heart told him, "You must do this for the good of all Custodes."
War on Everguild. I wish him luck. He fights for us.
I mean, Tryon has brought it back a bit, but yeah, that was short-lived.
Yep.
Quite short-lived.
Well, what would you say, if we're not talking Warlords, and we're not talking Psychic, or we could loop in the Psychic tactics, but just in general, what would be your top 2,000 Suns cards?
That's a good question. Probably Hidden One, because of the ability. The ability is really, really good right now.
Before, it was a joke.
Oh man, I've lived to hear people say Hidden Ones are too good. Because I loved playing Hidden Ones as a precog 4/5, and giving them quick blood. But I hated the fact that that's all they were, and their ability was terrible. And it was like, this is an epic that should do something, and they finally made it. Where it's got a good ability, especially in some games where you're like, I'm not going to attack, I'm just going to get your stuff. I'll play multiple copies of your stuff. Yeah.
Especially against the Custodes, I think it was in Lodge Wars that basically Hidden Ones won me an entire game, because I just kept copying some, because I kept abusing the Sentinel mechanic, of course. That's another thing. If someone knows how to play against the Sentinel mechanic, it's really easy to abuse.
Mm-hmm.
If someone doesn't know how to play Custodes perfectly, basically.
And their art is it's a gorgeous card, so to actually see it usable is nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it was a waste of good art. It was a waste of an ability, because I'm trying to remember its ability. Was it not just 1E, see a card in the enemy's hand? I
think it was two. It was 1 or 2 psychic energy.
It was 2 psychic energy just to look. You didn't even copy.
Yes.
So it was like, you could have you could have at least given it the same ability as the Scry psychic thing, so you've got a troop in your game. No, it was just just look at it. Just take a peek.
Yeah.
I can't believe they did them dirty.
Yeah.
But now, I think it was still psychic energy to copy.
Yeah.
No,
it was changed. When it was first changed, first buffed, then yeah. But I think they
have Psyker now, because they didn't have Psyker before as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but the fact that they use normal energy and they generate psychic energy is really strong. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think they would be as strong if they used normal psychic energy as their main ability.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's 10 times better now. That is called.
Although in a mission build, I would see the point of it using psychic energy.
Yeah.
But yes,
Oh well.
it's a very
I'm
good
just
card.
happy. I can't complain.
And for my second favorite card, I would say Horned Raiment.
Okay.
Because
Man. Can we travel back a couple months before this change, and then I can ask you your opinion on Horned
I'm
Raiment?
telling you, that's like people would say those two were like one of the least playable cards. Nobody plays Horned Raiment. Nobody plays Hidden Ones. And now, I mean, it's harder to play at some point, some games, but it makes such a big difference with the way that card plays. And it's just a matter of changing the timing on it. It was huge.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the fact that it gives you one of your Psyker back, something they took from us.
Yep.
To be fair, we deserve to lose it, but now we have it back. And a
Yes,
resolution shield.
I would argue that the shield relentless would be a bit better, because shield, when you can hit with the shield, it's generally better.
I mean, that's why you give it resolution and relentless. You double down.
that
There
may
is
be
no-
too strong.
There is no moment you don't have a shield.
But I personally think that shields should be stackable, like Bastion,
Huh.
because since they are so rare, I know where
I agree,
have a
but what if
different-
we had Ophion?
But we won't, so it doesn't matter.
He makes a good point. Oh man, you're
Yeah.
gonna add reinforcements that guarantee Ophion to the game. Then you're gonna feel silly.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean,
Dolls is doubting me.
I think, I mean, the shield is really rare in the game, so what else gives shield in this entire game? I mean, Ophion does, but like he's only available on Lucretia at the moment. Not Lucretia, sorry, Calidus Assassin. And who else?
I can. If you give me some time, I could probably think of some of them. But Mechanendrites, that's a consistent way to get them.
No, I guess so. I mean, it's one out of 5 every time you generate one. But yeah, but still, it's a really rare mechanic, and it's usually not found.
No.
At like a lot. You cannot play a lot at the moment, so I think it would be a buff to that mechanic, which would be, I think, I would appreciate it for sure.
We would have to see how that'd play out, because we all know every guild's tendency of buffing something too much, and then figure out if it's a problem or not, so...
Yeah, I to be honest, I'm not a fan of that balancing tactic.
You don't like Scoria right now? Sorry, folks, this isn't even close to Thousand Suns related, but...
No, I don't. Scoria is like, yeah, I don't know. It's just not an interesting warlord in my opinion, and it's a lot of RNG involved. So, and not even the fun kind of RNG.
I love Scoria as a character, but in game, bring back original Scoria.
No,
Fuck
don't do
it.
that.
This is now.
Are you talking about the one where you just equip the Xanathite?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
He also had
that would be much better. That would be so much better. Like on 8 energy, you have this buff, like kind of like a transformation. Like
But his ability
Yeah.
also let him just give you the suck and gain shield. Like that was great.
Well, because I think,
Yes.
because it gave him shield just the one time, though, right? It wasn't like a resolution or relentless.
No, not that. That healed him. I mean, his ability was 2E, ping 1 damage, gain shield.
Oh, that's right.
If it kills.
I just like that ability. I hardly ever use the ability, but I did like the fact that if you got to 8 energy and you could play it, you're like, all right, I'll just free damage. Like you thought your Medusan Carapace was awesome. Check this shit out.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun with him. That's why I'm very, very sad.
Yeah.
That we got instead. Also, the art changed, which also made me sad.
For who?
The original Scoria. The original art was the Forbidden Protocols one.
Oh, that's true. That's
Yes.
true. Yep. They don't
It
like to
looked very
do
goofy, but
Warlord faces of close-ups anymore. Like that's not a thing.
sadly.
Yeah, you got to get like 3/4 body shots. Nothing
need
below
more
the knee,
semblance
though.
on a
That's not.
character's face.
This is Rob Liefeld stuff.
Sometimes, though.
All right.
Occasionally we'll get some like knee, like some not knee but shin.
You might see a foot if they're like a an assault, like hall squad or something. You might see a boot.
Maybe a boot. This was all a ploy to hear me say a boot.
That's it, and it wasn't even to apologize.
God damn it. Anger.
For my favorites for the Thousand Sons, I do like Izirka Or, for just what he does, in the game, and like how he paces. Hidden Ones is up there. I don't know. For me, it's a tough call. It's a tough call between Hidden Ones and Armin's Cabal, and I don't think either of them are bad for it. I'll probably go with Hidden Ones just because for the longest time I was a Hidden Ones fan, and I just felt like they were underrepresented and not like strong like they should be, and then they got the love that they deserve.
Yeah, they got what they deserved.
In a good way.
There can be some good. Occasionally, the clock, or rather the roulette wheel spins and it lands on good buff. Yes. So man, was Thousand Sons one of the most decisive opinions I've seen on buffs yet. Like the Night Lord one was pretty decisive. Some people were upset, some people were happy, but the Thousand Sons, there was community members rejoicing and others burning houses down.
I don't recall anybody being upset about it, but if they are, I don't know what they were following.
Oh, I remember a lot of people upset about it.
Were they just like, oh, now I have to play Thousand Sons cards in my Thousand Sons deck?
Pretty much that.
Oh, yeah, well, you know what? I have no sympathy for that. Get out of here.
Yeah, neither do I.
If you want to play neutral cards, get a neutral warlord and go have fun. But if you want to play a legion, this is the Legion's game. This isn't Horus Heresy play neutrals game.
I mean, there is the point like that, and then I think that was a part in the lore that like the Thousand Sons were basically dwindling, and I mean,
yeah,
I guess they would have been assisted, or they would have been assisting some other forces in the Imperium.
Well, you know who Lucretia is?
Yes, I know.
He's the Imperial Guard guy. Wow, Imperial Guard gal who's assigned to the Thousand Sons. So, yeah, makes sense.
Lore-wise, the Thousand Sons, they weren't the smallest, but they were not...
They actually weren't that tiny, to be honest.
Well, they weren't tiny, but they also weren't growing by any means.
Yeah. They had 90,000 Marines during the Heresy.
Yeah, they had...
Which, is nothing to scoff at. But still, it's not much. Compared to some of their... brother chapters, legions, sorry, don't shoot me. We put to death if I ever get that wrong again.
I mean, yeah.
One of the reasons I remember is because the Word Bearers lost like a third of their legion during Callus, and it was 50,000. Interesting. Exactly good.
Yeah.
Well, in their defense, it was on purpose. They didn't like the Marines they sent, so their idea was, well, if they die, they die.
I apologize, I had a phone call. I gotta take this one here, and I'll be back in just a sec.
All good. Me and Doles will likely have this edited out, so we'll just chill.
Yeah.
I gotta check the numbers of the legions. Now I'm curious. Okay, here it is. Thousand Sons had 85,000. There were more Thousand Sons than there were Raven Guard. And just a little bit less than the Salamanders. Mind you, when the Raven Guards, when Korax appeared, kind of just kicked out half of them, so that makes sense.
I guess. Poor Kirhane. Oh, not Kirhane, sorry. Yeah, though, I guess Kirhane too, but...
No, it was Kirhane. He kicked them out.
Kirhane, but, yeah.
He told them, just leave. Don't return. We do not need you here. You are not welcomed.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kinda like they didn't try to tell them, like, okay, stop it and get some help. And like I guess.
Now, Korax was really much like, I don't like you guys, so bye.
Yeah, it's Primarch idiocy.
Yeah.
Idiocracy.
Selective Primarch idiocracy is my favorite 40k. Because there's a lot of it.
Yes.
Magnus is a prime example of this.
Yeah, definitely.
Then again, Magnus is a prime example of why intelligence and wisdom aren't the same stat in D&D.
Yeah, I would think that's what it was. Like, he just didn't have that common sense.
He was very smart, but he also didn't realize the demon was a demon.
Well, that
could not.
Yeah, he's like, no, what? I made a deal with you? What?
No, my favorite is how so many of the Thousand Sun sorcerers were like, "Oh man, we have these familiars and they're so cool."
Yeah.
What is a familiar? I don't really know, to be honest.
Yep, they're like, they come from the warp, man, and they help us out do things. Totally don't ask for anything in return.
Weird.
Well, we've got Dole's hot take on Magnus did nothing wrong. Axel, did Magnus do nothing wrong?
No, he did many things wrong.
Particularly,
he wrecking balled through a glass door that led to his father's home.
That still is it's the penultimate, because he was like, just like, you know what? It's gonna cost me. I've been sanctioned already, but Dad's got to know. He's got to know that Horus is up to no good. Starting trouble in his neighborhood, and then he goes and he bursts through, and then
got sent to Bel Air.
The Emperor's like, I know this already.
Common knowledge.
So now you're going to Bel Air, and then that's how he became the fresh sorcerer,
the dusty sorcerer of Prospero.
Oh, poor Magnus.
Poor buddy. Poor guy. Got literally shattered.
I mean, I feel bad. because even after he got obliterated and sharded, he sharded himself. Even after that, like, he still wanted to be loyal. He still helped out the Salamanders a little bit. He wasn't declaring as a traitor. He didn't side with Horus. He didn't even really side with Horus until it was like, I'm doing this for myself. I still feel bad there, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, you still didn't do the right thing. Like, half of this problem is because of you. Like, if the Space Wolves were not sent to sanction you, or to, because you broke the creed, maybe things would be a little different. If you would have just sat in timeout like Dad asked.
If they didn't decide to, double back on no, Dad, we won't talk to the demons anymore.
Right. Or well, even then, like when he's like, okay, we'll take our punishment, and then like he's like, no, we're not gonna take our punishment. We'll fight. Okay.
Well, to be fair, the punishment was complete obliteration.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but at the same time, like,
I mean, yeah.
I mean, apples to oranges here. Complete obliteration, jump into a portal, because they end up going into a portal anyways. So what was the point? Like, why didn't he just do that to begin with? Why didn't he just like transmute Prospero to the sorcerer's planet right away?
More characters need to go, well, we're fucked, and just jump in the portals.
That they need to
That's why I love Erebus.
They need to write off the 13th Company for the Space Wolves. They had to have some reason to do that.
Exactly. To then just bring them back.
Well, Doles, when you're not playing Legions, what is it that you do?
I usually play some other games mostly. Some either basically sandbox games mostly.
Okay.
So then just or to grind something like these days I play a large amount of Fallout 76.
Nerd. Can't believe you
Shut
picked
the
it. But I also play a large amount of that game, so I really can't say much.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, what you up to, Axel?
What am I up to? We finally got to the boss fight in the campaign that I've been hyping up for a bit because of delays, and instantly it took out a player.
All right.
He got turned into a statue.
Oh,
they were able to fix him in the end, but he had to sit out for a little bit.
Sometimes they need that experience to realize that there are stakes.
Now, you mentioned that. I looked at the Wrath and Glory rule set for in case people don't know, Fantasy Flight Games did all the Warhammer tabletops, but their license ended and they got a new one. Wrath and Glory got a remake in 2020 that I didn't see because COVID was in full swing and I didn't have time. It actually looks like a good rule set. It's not perfect, but it's got rules in it to run as literally every faction, so I'm going to run an Imperial Guard campaign with my players. Nice. They're going to learn the hard way that actions have consequences when you're the Imperial Guard.
Well, yeah. Sometimes inaction has consequences too.
Exactly, especially when a single gene stealer is considered a huge threat. Because the way it's a tiered system, so depending on your classes, you start at a different tier, and enemies of that tier are recommended. So if you're a Space Marine, you instantly go to tier 3. But if you're a Guardsman, you're tier 1. And Gene Stealers are like considered a boss in tier 1. Which is funny to consider. That one Gene Stealer is like a boss fight or an occasion.
Just a testament of their power.
To be fair, a Gene Stealer does have swords for hands 90% of the time. Yeah, probably going to run that. That should be fun.
All right.
Should be a good time.
Well, aside from battling this cold, I've been dealing with a sick dog as well. When I say sick, I mean he's elderly and he's probably not long on this plane of existence. So that's been keeping me occupied.
It's a shame.
Yeah, it is. He's been with me for 16 years. And he just can't hang out there anymore longer. So that's the way it is. But that's been taking up a lot of my time lately. And, going back to the vets, getting stuff, tendon, just not really up for much more beyond that.
Can't blame you.
And that's about it. I don't have a whole lot of positive stuff to say, other than, next week we've got the Everguild Q&A, and that's been something that I've also had to spend some time with, and it looks like we've got some good questions. I like the fact that some of the top questions we've got this time around are new, or were very fewly asked last time.
Wait, are you telling me it's not just 100 people asking when Nightlord buff?
Well, actually, that's on there too. No, I don't think that. I don't think that particular question's on there. But there's still a lot of outcry for Iron Warriors buff win. So we'll get to that. It'll be some good stuff.
No matter what we do, no matter what happens, when blank buff will be asked.
I love it. It just feels complete. So. Well, before we go, Doles, as a tournament organizer, you have got some tournaments you'd like to plug.
Yes, I would like to plug some tournaments. The weekly and the midweeks posts should be up by Thursday, basically when I think this tournament and this podcast comes out, or
it comes out Thursday.
Thursday, okay, yeah. So basically, you should be able to see some new tournaments, mainly in the Horus Heresy Legions servers weekly tournament channel, hosted by Turs.
All right. And those happen every week, correct?
Yes, there is that, and there is 3 tournaments at least every week.
Nice, and that is a great way for players to win gold, and just play the game in a different style.
Yes, also it can also and then you can choose a legendary card if you win the tournament. So it's a really good source of cards that you specifically need.
There you go.
I used it to get I can't even remember his name. Sanguinius. There we go. Birdman. You want Birdman? I don't know. Not specifically Birdman, but really any Primarch, you can do that.
Yep.
Really the easiest way to get Primarch.
It really is. All you have to do is win. And you might say, well, that's hard to do, but there's different levels, there's different tiers. Some tournaments have different restrictions. It's actually easier than you think. You might be playing experienced players, but you guys are all on equal footing for the most part. Or in some instances, there's some tournaments that don't allow higher experienced players. So it's worth checking out into the tournaments. We've talked about tournaments on this podcast numerous times, not just World Cup or Lodge Wars, but all the different formats. And I always recommend people give those a try because it gets you involved in the community. It gets you some additional prizing. At the very least, you might meet some connections. You might realize that there's some more active players in other lodges if your lodge is not as active, or you might get some strategies as far as how to evolve your deck because, you're starting out if you're a newer player, or you didn't think, tournament versus ladder is totally different. How do I build for one versus the other? So always a good.
And you really lose
thing.
nothing by participating,
no.
except maybe some time.
It
I
would
mean,
be
it's not
time
even
that you're
that
playing
much time.
Legions
It's like
anyways.
1 to 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what average player should basically grind 1 to 2 hours every day. I mean, not
Yeah.
should. I mean, usually
If
does.
if they want to build a good collection. Also, if you're a if that doesn't work for you, midweek tournaments, they work around your schedule. That's an option.
Yes.
It's not like perfect schedule for some players, obviously. Nothing can be.
It's better than nothing.
It's significantly better than nothing.
Yes, it's likely that either the weekly or the midweek is gonna be good for your time frame.
Yeah.
All right.
What
Well,
we're trying to say, folks, is do some tournaments.
Yes.
do some tournaments and use those extra deck slots to make some decks for those tournaments.
Throw out some of your deck slots.
I'm going to
You
play
have
those
too
deck
many.
slots, folks.
Greedy.
And you know what? Other people have
Greedy.
asked. They
People have
demand.
asked.
They
out
demand the
of
deck slots.
spite. Despite me, I say.
That's,
I say
well, you and others who only play with one deck and one deck only when there's 120 deck slots available.
There are, but only one shall be utilized. The rest, I can switch warlords, but I toss the deck into the void when I do. It is gone, forgotten.
Never.
I'm a menace.
I'm gonna plug those deck slots. Plug them hard. Axel, you got anything to plus?
I think
What do you say your pistols, and then I'll plug Dorn.
I personally think it would be an excellent business decision for EG to make deck slots.
Don't tell them
as a premium, like additional deck slots. Don't take away our deck
This man
slots
is
now.
telling every guild to sell us deck slots.
Yes,
You died for that.
it would. I think
Your opinion has signed your death warrant.
Alt art deck slots win.
Oh god. No, every alt art deal comes with a singular deck slot to fit it in.
Worth it.
Yes, that would be great. Yes.
No, don't say that'd be great. I just gave you an awful idea. Don't
That's
make them
an excellent
monetize that.
idea.
I will hurt you. Emotionally. I'm gonna plug our boy Doran, like always. That's Dorn Stash. Drew Lee Clark on Instagram. Was Dorn Stash on Instagram. He does art. He draws. Well, he does commissions, and he made me another profile picture I now use on the 40K related media. It is a crab bearer. It is horrific. I love it dearly. I'm going to show it to the folks that aren't at home, but actually talking to us in the Warp
Nice.
Chatters.
I like that.
It is adorable.
It looks appropriate.
There's a tiny crab in the flame, which I didn't realize when he had first showed it to me, and after noticing it, I loved it.
It looks good.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. His art's great. He does the art. Commission him if you feel.
Right.
Baba Booey.
Well, that is it for me. We've talked about the Thousand Suns. I feel like we could have talked a little bit more about the lore, but I mean, it's always going to fall onto the old tried and true meme. Did Magnus do anything wrong? I think the Legion paid for his sins, but
To be fair, they weren't innocent either.
They weren't
Yes,
innocent.
Magnus,
I
I
think they
love
were-
the idea of talking to the
they
floating
were
creature.
guiltily ignorant just the same. And with that, like I said, again, next week, tune in, check out the Everguild Q&A, and
It's gonna be good.
it's
It
going to be
has
some
to
good stuff. And usually we have some really good discussion with Mr. Everguild, and I think this week will be no exception to that.
So far, it's all been very, very good.
Well, Dulls, thank you for being available. I know we had to juggle some days here to make things work, and kind of a little short notice. I appreciate you being available and flexible as possible. And I know it's really super late for you there.
I mean, it's only 1 a.m. It's fine.
Only 1 a.m. Well, I appreciate it just the same. Hopefully at some point we get some more time. We can actually have a better discussion maybe on the tournaments or new formats as you've got those coming up. I'll have to look into that. Get you on the schedule.
Gotta be
Oh yes, I would love to do a podcast on tournaments too.
Could get some TOs on, have a good old... We've done one before, but we may as well do a rehash.
It's
for
been a
some
while.
new tournaments
It's been a while
and
since
that.
we had a TO hoedown. I think that's what we should call
Yeah.
it.
By the way, The promotional tournament should be starting somewhere, I don't know, at some point in the next month, I think, where basically the mods will be matched against the tournament organizers.
Is this?
It will be
It's coming out the same time we're going to get that second use for gems?
No, I mean, we will never gonna get that, so... Oh, I mean, fair enough, you're completely right, because we'll probably never get this tournament going either, so yes.
Alright, well, we'll see. I mean, you can be hopeful, because I know Midnight and the Vapix and me have been asked to do some commentary, and I'm open for that if we can, but it just seems like it's one of those things where it's on the agenda one day.
Maybe.
Time will tell. Well, that's it for me, guys. We'll talk to everybody, or whoever we're talking to next week. Mr. Everguild.
Mr. Everguild will be spoken to.
All right. Thanks again, Doles. Bye.
All right.
Bye.
The sunlight dims.
This has been another episode of the Warp Chatter Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Eternal loyalty!
Burn it! Burn it all! Well executed!